Yeah, the parents did find my video, which was expected, and that's fine. I think people who are on the fence about having children and trying to consider whether they should or shouldn't should look at all sorts of perspectives. I think they should look at perspectives from individuals who are child-free and have chosen that for whatever reasons, individuals who chose parenthood, whether they regret it, whether they don't, and then I think they should even see the perspective of these blissfully ignorant parents who walk around like everything's rainbows and sunshines, okay? Because the reality is, objectively speaking, whether you like it or not, children are burdens. Children are burdens, and I think we need to acknowledge that. Now, whether you have a negative connotation associated with the word burden, that's on you, because there's nothing inherently negative about a burden. A burden just means that something is a heavier load. It's harder. And children make your life harder. It is a lifestyle change. Your lifestyle before children will never be the same. It is much harder to navigate life with children. On average, it takes $250,000 to raise a child from 0 to 18. That is a heavy financial burden per kid. That is a financial burden. My friends, a couple that we just went out with for dinner, they have their first daughter, $1,200 a month for daycare. $1,200 a month for daycare. That's mortgage for some people. That's rent for some people per month. That is a financial burden. That's just objectively the truth. Now, whether you think the burden is worth it or not, that's something we can agree or disagree on. My dogs, they're burdens. Taking care of a sick family member, that's a burden. Do you think it's worth it though? That's what we can have a conversation about. I have friends who have no kids or animals, and they think that my burden of having 2 dogs is not worth it. And it's not to them, because it just doesn't work for their lifestyle. It is a burden. My dogs vomit in the middle of the night. I have to wake up, I have to be at 6 in the morning. But I'm waking up at 2 a.m. cleaning up their vomit because they're sick. They're chewing up my husband's PlayStation 5 remote controls, okay? It's a burden. But I think the burden's worth it. I think the benefits outweigh the cons. And in my mind, when it comes to children, the benefits do not outweigh the cons for me. So that burden is not worth it for me to bear. But this idea that we're gonna act like children aren't burdens, I think that's what's led a decent amount of parents into parenthood, into making that decision, because they were not well informed. And I think now more than ever, the year of 2025, I think when millennials are kind of taking over and are just being more open and honest about parenthood, when we're seeing fathers change diapers more than ever before with millennials, I think it's a genuine conversation that people are starting and willing to have. And that's okay. It's okay to acknowledge the objective fact that children are burdens. I think people need to know that, because I think many parents went into it not expecting it to be as hard as it is. Because society has pushed for decades and decades, over 100-something years, that this is what we're meant to do. This is what we're biologically programmed to do, especially if you're a woman. You've heard that a million times before. And the reality is not everybody can handle parenthood. Not everybody's meant for parenthood. But if we sit and act blissful and, oh, it's all rainbows and butterflies and it's the best thing you can do, you end up having people who hate their lives and hate themselves and hate their children. There are entire forums dedicated on Reddit and Facebook. There are podcasts, there are articles written about parents who hate their children, who regret having children, and they wish they never would have done that. I think people who are on the fence and don't know whether they want children or not, they need to hear that. They need to hear in every way how children are burdens. How is it gonna make your life harder? And why do you care? Well, I don't know, because I have to live in society amongst you. I have to live in society amongst the parents who hate themselves and hate their lives, and they take it on everybody else. And they have a monopoly over hardship. And then I have to see videos about how being child-free, it's vacation 24/7. Only I know what hardship is. Only I know what it's like to be tired as a parent. I have to live in society amongst you assholes. And I have to live in society amongst your children who know that you hate them and know that you regret them. My husband is a therapist, and I can tell you right now from what he's said, if people aren't going to therapy for just like regular everyday life issues or, job stressors, whatever, when it comes to a lot of people's traumas and what people have to undo, you want to know what the main cause of it is? Their parents. Most of my husband's clients are seeing him because of their parents, because of what their parents did or did not do. And I think people need to be more fully informed before making this extremely life-altering, intensive, life-changing decision, because that is what it is. When my husband and I took out a mortgage, when we bought our home and took out a mortgage, I looked into everything, all the crime statistics. I looked into the taxes. I looked into were there churches or schools in my neighborhood, so I know there's not gonna be sex offenders. I looked into everything. You know how much research we put into picking college or picking out our mortgage, yet when it comes to children, willy-nilly? No. Be open, let's talk about it. That's important. And also, I don't do absolutisms. I know that there are parents out there that aren't insufferable. I have friends who have children. I have a lot of siblings who have children. I have a lot of siblings. I have a lot of nieces and nephews, okay? My siblings are not insufferable. They don't care what child-free people are doing, but they've been real and honest. They love it. They love being moms. They really do, and they're great mothers. But they're realistic and they're rooted in reality, and they knew what they were getting themselves into. I think most people, when they make this choice, back in the day, didn't really know what they were getting themselves into. And now that we have the internet and we have forums and we have more freedom to be open and talk about this, I think it's important that we do that. It's okay that your children are burdens. It's okay. You may think they're worth it. I don't, but they're burdens, and it's okay. And it's okay to admit that. It's totally okay. Let's just be real with ourselves.